We have breaking news this hour. The judge in the Menendez brothers case says both brothers will be resentenced. This comes after hearing testimony today from several witnesses at what was the start of a 2-day hearing. The brothers have been serving life prison sentences for the 1989 murders of their parents. Journalist Steve Futterman is live in Los Angeles outside the courtroom tonight. Steve, you were inside that courtroom. Is it a surprise that the judge has come to a decision today?
Yes, and Sarah, let me give you an update. In the last 10 minutes, we have found out what this new sentence will be. The judge has completely ended the hearing. He decided that, yes, under the rules of California, both Erik and Lyle Menendez would be allowed to be resentenced. He heard arguments, he heard comments, pleas basically from Erik and Lyle Menendez via a video link, and he's announced that their new sentence, it was life in prison without the possibility of parole. They have been resentenced. It's now a 50 years to life sentence. Now, what does that mean? They have served around 35 years in prison already. This means the brothers are eligible for parole. Does that mean they're going to be freed? Not so quick. A parole board will have to determine that. If the parole board says, yes, we approve that we feel they should be released, there is still another hurdle. California Governor Gavin Newsom has the right to block it. So still a long ways from having Erik and Lyle Menendez freed from prison, but a major step has been taken here. The brothers now resentenced to 50 years in life. They've already served 35 years. They are eligible for a parole hearing, but it will be up to the parole board to determine should they be released. And there will be major arguments for and against the brothers. We heard many arguments by the district attorney's office here why they shouldn't be released, how they have not really admitted the depravity. That was the term that the district attorney used today, the depravity of their acts. However, I must say, in the comments made by Erik and Lyle Menendez, they pretty much admitted everything they've been accused of doing, and we'll have to wait and see. A parole board could meet as early as next month, but lots of activity here today.
Steve, I have so many questions about what happened in that courtroom. It was supposed to be 2 days, but this happening on day one. So what was it that was heard in court that would have allowed the judge to so quickly come to a decision that they would be resentenced, and not only decide that they would be resentenced, but decide what that new sentence would be?
Well, the hearing was scheduled for 2 days. We just didn't have that many witnesses. The defense team for Lyle and Erik Menendez presented around 5 witnesses. Most of them were relatives of the brothers. And the big question they were asked, are these two men now in their 50s, are they a threat to commit another serious crime? They listed the crimes that would qualify to not re-sentence them, things like murder, rape, sexual assault, things like that. And all of these witnesses said there is no doubt in their minds that the two men, the Erik and Lyle Menendez, the brothers, would not recommit these crimes. So that was the main issue in the first hearing. The judge said he was limited because of California law to basically rule on the resentencing, allowing resentencing based pretty much on that. So his hands were pretty much tied. He did not have to discuss the depravity, the violent nature of the acts. He pretty much had to go with, are they a threat to society again? And he ruled they are not. And that's what allowed him to go next to the next step, which was the actual resentencing. He only heard from Erik and Lyle Menendez via a video link from the prison where they're at. They both spoke quite movingly, I must say. And then the judge said he had given this a great deal of time. He said he was moved by what the brothers, he said he was shocked by what the brothers had done in this horrible crime in 1986. He said he was also moved by the letters he got from prison officials. One prison official saying he had never written a letter asking for clemency or having a prisoner be released until now. He said he was moved by that. He felt they should not be released immediately, but it should be up to a parole board now, and they will now most likely have a second chance at life. We can't say for sure if the parole board will release them or recommend their release right now, but it does seem to be moving in that direction.
Steve, just before I let you go, we think we may be hearing from Mark Garagos at some point, but I want to ask you, you say we're a long way from potentially knowing if they're going to get parole, but my goodness, this case has come a long way. As you know, at the persistence of so many who have talked about what happened in you know what? I'm going to end. We're going to go to Mark Garagos. Steve, thank you so much. I want to get some analysis on what has happened in that Los Angeles courtroom from Neama Rahmani. He is the president and co-founder of West Coast Trial Lawyers, also a former federal prosecutor. Neama, you've been listening in, I assume, and reading whatever is, making its way to the internet here. But help us understand here. So, eligible for parole, what we're hearing from Mark Geragos is that the first thing that will happen is a clemency hearing in June?
The bottom line is the brothers are very likely going to be released in a matter of months, but I'm happy to go through all the different cases. So this was the resentencing hearing, and this was something initiated by the former Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon. The new District Attorney Nathan Hochman tried to rescind it or pull it back, but the judge said it's too late because this process has already been initiated. I can only stop it as a judge if I believe the brothers are going to commit a violent crime or pose a risk to the public, and I don't think they are. By resentencing the brothers to 50 to life, the brothers are immediately eligible for parole because they were youthful offenders. Under California law, you're eligible after serving half of your sentence. They've already served 35 years. So they're going to go before the parole board in a matter of months. The parole board will make a recommendation, and Governor Gavin Newsom can accept or reject that recommendation. Ultimately, it's up to him. But the governor, in another proceeding, has the pardon power. He can commute their sentence at any time. He can choose to free them regardless of them appearing before the parole board or not. And the third case that's pending is the habeas petition. That's the brothers' argument that because some of the evidence of the sex abuse didn't come into the second murder trial, they didn't receive a fair trial and they should get a new trial. I think that's the least likely path for them to be released, because even if the habeas petition is successful, they get a new trial. I expect the brothers to appear before the parole board to recommend release, Governor Newsom not to stop it, and Erik and Lyle Menendez to be free in a matter of months.
But the governor could stop it. And I think that's the only thing I'm a little bit caught up here. You don't think that that's the likely scenario?
I don't think so. Reading the tea leaves, the governor, before this resentencing hearing, ordered what's called a comprehensive risk assessment. That's something that the parole board considers when someone is eligible for parole. A psychologist, an expert comes and they evaluate the inmate to see if they're a risk to the public. There was some discussion of that today. Are the brothers low risk? The experts said they're moderate risk because of some narcissistic tendencies. The fact that the governor ordered the risk assessment before the brothers were even eligible for parole leads me to believe that he's not going to stop this resentencing. We, of course, know that Governor Newsom is likely running for president in 2028, and this case is political. So maybe he didn't want to make the decision himself, but leave it up to the judge and the parole board here.
Let me ask you about this, the significance of this moment and this particular case. Back in 1989 when this happened, and then throughout the many years that the two trials, because it had to be retried, there was I think it was a hung jury in the first. The way sex assault was discussed in court, the way it was prosecuted, very different, I think, from what we see now. So how does the conversation around this, how significant is it to, I guess, in your circles, within your profession, the fact that a judge would make this decision now?
This is a historic day, not just for the Menendez brothers, not just for victims of sex abuse, but everyone who has lived with this case. I was born and raised in Southern California. I remember this case as a child, and I've been living with it, following it my entire life. I never thought Erik and Lyle Menendez would be released, but that just shows how our society has changed. And frankly, it shows the power of a Netflix series. And it's not just what happens inside the courtroom, but outside the courtroom. Public pressure and awareness can make a difference. Obviously, in the 80s and 90s, there wasn't this awareness of sex abuse, particularly sex abuse of men. And now that there is that awareness, society views things differently. Let's not forget, this was a potential death penalty case. A jury spared their lives, but there was the possibility that Erik and Lyle Menendez would have been executed by and now. Not only was their life spared, they're going to be free men likely in a matter of months. So this is a tremendous victory for them, Mark Geragos, and the entire defense team.
Yeah, you give a plug for that Netflix series, and it is true that it got a lot of traction when that came out, and there have been other documentaries done as well about this. You really think it's public pressure that has led to this? I know Mark Garagos has played a role. He gave a shout out to Leslie Abramson, who was the defense lawyer for Erik Menendez in the initial trials. But do you think it's truly just public pressure that has led to this?
Every prosecutor in the United States is elected or appointed by someone who is. The Menendez brothers first filed their habeas petition in early 2023. Only when George Gascon, the former district attorney, was trailing badly, almost a year and a half later, did he initiate this resentencing request because it was so popular. I would guess that the majority, maybe the vast majority of people watching support the release of the Menendez brothers. It's very popular. I would venture that the number is probably somewhere maybe north of 70, even 80%. This was a political move. It's also the just move, in my opinion. I do believe that they were sexually abused. I do believe that 35 years is a fair and just sentence. But for anyone saying that George Gascon didn't do this for political reasons weeks before he was trailing badly in the election, when he really ignored this case for a significant period of time, shortly after the Netflix series Monsters came out, I think that's being disingenuous and not understanding politics.
So you are anticipating, based on the various things that have to happen here, that we're talking about months. Is there any scenario in which parole board hears this sooner, or that they potentially are released sooner?
It's really just a function of how backed up the parole board is. They are backed up a few months, so we'll take some time to set this for hearing. Having that comprehensive risk assessment certainly helps. Having it done, that's one hurdle that needs to be cleared. But the courts are backed up. We've seen how many times this resentencing hearing was delayed. It is somewhat difficult to get a hearing before a judge or a board, but it's really just a matter of time before the Menendez brothers do get that parole hearing. They will very likely be recommended release, and the governor will not stand in their way, and they'll be out, and they'll maybe be on your show giving an interview very soon.
Oh, we'll be calling you, and that will be quite the day when that happens. Neama Rahmani, president and co-founder of West Coast Trial Lawyers, really appreciate you jumping on the Zoom to talk about this with us. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having me, as always.